right now. We're good.
Yeah. Someday we're going to figure out, Dave, like how we want to start the episode. We're going like completely off the cuff here. We're just going to, well, we're going to be transparent for everybody. We were just talking about how do we want to start this off? I don't know if it would it be boring. I guess we should ask our listeners. Well, Rise Above is not in its infancy stage at all. But in terms of what we're trying to do now, maybe we should ask listeners: is it something we should change all the time, or is it something that, as far as beginning the show, if you think about sitcoms or things like that, it always starts the same way. It's the same music. You hear the music, and the sitcom that's going to be on. Even big, podcasts like the Rogan Experience, it's always that weird monkey sound. If I hear that monkey sound anywhere, I think immediately of the Joe Rogan podcast. So is that something we should do? Let's be transparent here. We're asking the listeners, do we do something? Do we think of something that everybody hears that sound and thinks immediately of Rise Above? I don't know. Could be.
Maybe we need like some sort of monkey but not a monkey, but like some sort of sound that is like specifically for the podcast. This podcast,
like Tony the Tiger or something. Not Tony the Tiger, but a roar. But then if you do the roar, that's like, which movie production company is that? Is that 20th Century where the roar comes in? Or is that even a thing anymore? Probably not, right? I'm
probably not.
No.
People
my age know what I'm talking about, David.
We need to clip up the first episode where your son peed on the floor and you're like, you gotta be kidding me,
folks. And now let's real quick, let's tell this story here. We're going to get into protein today, by the way. But let's just tell this story real quick. Dave and I are recording a show. My two kids, age 15 and 12, are upstairs. They're upstairs. They're like right above me at this point from where I'm sitting right now. And I tell them, I warn them, you need to keep it down. They do a good job usually. You need to keep it down, getting ready to do a podcast, getting ready to record. You need to keep it down. They're doing a great job. Dave and I start talking about the topic of that podcast. And as we're going back and forth, out of the corner of my eye, as Dave is asking me a question, and as I begin to answer it, I see the 15-year-old moving past me. He's moving past me, and he's looking at me, and his eyes are about that big, Dave. For those of you who are not watching and you're listening, is this all video or is this video and audio?
Yeah, it's both.
So if you're just listening, imagine the eyes of literally the size of two moons on his face staring at me. And he starts talking to me, and I'm trying to concentrate on what I'm saying. And he's saying to me, Jordan peed on the floor. Jordan peed on the floor. What happened was my 12-year-old was so afraid to come downstairs and interrupt the podcast, didn't know what to do. We have these huge mats that, you can actually put your office chair on, Dave.
Yeah.
That you roll back and forth. He peed on the mat so that when the podcast was over, he would then go ahead and clean the mat up without peeing on the carpet. So he was thinking, right? He definitely was in deep thought. What can I do here? So he peed on the mat, and then he was just going to go ahead and take the mat outside after the podcast and empty it out in the yard and hose it off. And I was just like, you got to be kidding me right now. Is this really happening? And it was happening. And I guess there's that story now. There's nothing else to add to it. I mean, it was just, I thought to myself, is this how this is going to go?
I think our listeners should look forward to seeing a clip from that because it's really funny to watch.
Oh, it's hilarious. I initially freaked out because I thought that, he just said, I'm going to pee on the carpet. And I was like, this can't be happening with a 12-year-old. But he actually thought this through. What can I do not to interrupt the podcast? But I have to go to the bathroom. I'll pee on the plastic mat, and then I'll clean it up after the podcast.
It seems legit to me. It checks out.
I can't make this stuff up. I mean, but boys will be boys, I guess they say. I don't know. Straight A student and thinking things through there. I give him props for thinking things through. So, yeah, that's the kind of stuff behind the scenes that you don't get to see. That hasn't happened tonight, though. We haven't had any incidences. So we can get into protein. And I know for a fact on my end, there will be zero interruptions when it comes to this particular show, this particular episode here this evening. And what about protein? So, Dave, we talk about a 180. We did do an episode, which I'm sure either you can include in the description of this podcast, or it's not that hard to find, folks. It's just a couple episodes ago, actually, right?
Yes.
We talked about protein drinks. We'll touch on that a little bit here today, but because we've done an entire episode on that already, protein drinks, whey protein concentrate, isolate, plant protein, and all that jazz. We won't talk in detail about it today, but today's show is more about protein and what's it all about. What's the protein? If you take all three macronutrients, if you take carbohydrates, if you take fats, and you take protein is the most important of the three. I'm not saying that you don't have to have the other two. I am saying it is definitely, in order to live, you must have protein. You have to have it. It's essential in the building blocks of reaching the most beneficial, or should I say the healthiest lifestyle you could possibly lead. You need your protein and you need certain amounts of it. Everybody's different. Your lifestyle is definitely part of how much protein you need, but it is definitely the most important. So that's why we're going to get into that here today, for sure. What's your first question? I know you have some questions for me.
Well, I mean, I guess the question would be how much protein per day should someone have? I know that was added to the notes.
Yeah, this is there's a lot that goes into this, and the biggest reason why there's a lot that goes into this is because, like I just said, it's lifestyle that has a lot to do with this. Here's a rule of thumb. Well, you know what? I want to say this first, folks. You're going to hear me tell you today how much protein you should have based on so many different, so many different things. Then you're going to have this person tell you this. You're going to have that person tell you that. You're going to have this person tell you this, that person tell you that. And you have to figure out, based on everything that we're saying, what you read, what you watch, you have to take all of that together and find out what works best for you based on all the information that you've researched. If you're not going to do your research and you're just going to say, well, Coach Tony said this is exactly how much protein I should have, and that's what I'm going to do, that's fine. That's fine. I'm definitely not going to try and steer you wrong. As I check my phone, David, to make sure it's on silent. This is when everybody decides this is a good time to contact Tony right now. But you should do your research. You should check out clinical studies, research studies. What are they saying? Why are they saying that? Because once again, we're talking about exercise science. So when you're talking about a science, we're talking about constantly what? Evolving. Mm-hmm. It's not the same on a yearly basis, let alone every 10 years. So things will change as time goes on. And I always strongly suggest to everybody, make sure you do your research. Quick rule of thumb. How much protein should I eat? I will throw this number out as quick as possible. 80% of your ideal weight. 80% of your ideal weight in grams of protein. So what does that mean? What do you mean by ideal weight? Ideal weight, folks, is the weight that you should be at. The doctor might say to you, you're 165 pounds. You're not in horrible shape. Your A1C levels are not horrible. Your triglycerides are not horrible. Your cholesterol is not bad. We're not overly concerned with your health at all. But I really would like to see you functioning at about 150 pounds. Okay. That's your ideal weight. So 80% of 150 is what I would love to see everybody try to come in at in terms of grams of protein. Let's say you're 150 and the doctor wants you at 130, or you want to be at 130. You want to be a lean, Mean fighting machine at 130. That means 80% of that, if I'm not mistaken, as I do the math in my head, is somewhere between 100 and 105 grams of protein per day. That is ideally what I think is essential. You'll see some studies say, and these are nutritionists, dietitians, people who have degrees, people who have medical degrees. They'll say, as long as you take in 50 to 60% of your ideal body weight in protein, that is sustainable for quality life. That is sustainable to stay alive. That is not sustainable for quality of life, especially as you age. So rule number one in my book, in my professional opinion, as a professional trainer, is this: you should take in at least 80% of your ideal body weight in grams of protein. That to me is absolutely not for argument. If I'm training somebody, there's no argument there. That's what I want you to try and do.
Is there need to take more or consume more protein if you are like an elite athlete or somebody who puts out a lot more physical exercise, do a lot more physical exercise?
This is one of those things in the beginning when I said, depending on who you are and what your lifestyle is.
Yeah.
If you're an athlete.
So how would you weigh that? If you are somebody like that, how would you determine how much you should have?
So the first thing I'm going to ask you is, what's your lifestyle? If somebody comes to me and says, I'm extremely active, I have a very active physical job, I'm a roofer, I'm a construction worker, I'm a factory worker, I lift up heavy objects all day, I'm a mailman, I'm on my feet moving all day long, I probably get in 20,000 steps a day, and then I do CrossFit twice a week, I do yoga every Sunday, I'm very active in landscaping. One of my favorite hobbies as an active rest day is I do a ton of landscaping in my yard. If you're this type of person leading that type of lifestyle, I am going to tell you, you need to take in 100% of your ideal body weight in grams of protein, up to 120%. Absolutely no questions asked. So if your ideal body weight is 150 pounds, I want you to strive for 150 grams of protein per day, especially on the days when you are extremely active. If you're sedentary, if you have 2 days of the 7 per week, Dave, where you sauna, you may cold plunge, you relax, you meditate, you read, it's your days off, you don't do anything really, okay, that's a different story. But those other 5 days where you're going to work doing construction, then you're going to CrossFit, and then you're coming home and cutting the grass, mulching, you need to replace those protein stores with every bit of your ideal body weight in grams of protein. And that's just the way it is. And ideally.
What is the benefit of that? Would that be to sustain muscle growth for recovery?
So now you're talking about protein in terms of what are the benefits of protein, right? Yeah. Because what you're doing is tearing down lean muscle tissue. When you're not building muscle when you're working out, you're tearing it down. That's that process that's going on. You're building it back up when you're sleeping, when you're at rest, when you're eating. So when you're eating protein, okay, you are building lean muscle tissue. You are building stronger bones, bone density. And there's so many other benefits to go with that. And so that is the purpose. When you are so active that you are physically beating your body up in that manner, you must replace it with those building blocks. And 50% of your ideal body weight in grams of protein is not going to do it. It's not. If you're an office worker where you sit in a chair all day and you don't do anything, and you walk once or twice a week at the park with the guys, with the girls, you get a couple miles in. You don't really do much more than that. Your biggest thing is watching Netflix. Maybe you don't need that much protein to sustain, I don't know if it's ideal quality of life, but to me, it's not. but you can get away with it because you're not tearing your body down as much, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. That makes perfect sense. So, I guess that brings me to point number 2. What specific foods should people be looking at for protein growth? I mean, obviously we know like chicken and steak.
Well, what
powders in the last episode?
Yeah. So, well, I interrupted you there. My apologies.
It's easy to do when you're virtual.
Yeah. So we're virtual. I got to get up to the studio more than once, obviously. It's in its infantile stages of trying to figure out how we want to go about this show. We're trying to figure that out, right? But this works. Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Pat on the back to technology. Not always great technology, but definitely in this situation, it's fantastic. When you talk about protein sources, boy, the list is long. And I know you mentioned a couple just now when you were asking the question, but we're gonna mention them again. When you talk about chicken, chicken breast. When you talk about hamburger, when you talk about steak, when you talk about things of that nature, there's a lot of things you're looking for there. Some people will say red meat is very bad for you. Some people who I hold in high regard always tell me, be careful with the red meat. I understand in moderation is definitely always carnivore lifestyle. People who are religiously involved in carnivore dieting will tell me they eat red meat all day, every day. And their numbers, when they come from their doctor, are fantastic. And I don't know how you argue the point when you go in for your oil change and everything is, top notch. It's kind of hard to argue that red meat is bad for you in larger quantities because people are leading that lifestyle. And they're doing so much more than just that in a lifestyle of fitness, as well as supplementation.
However, doesn't it cause for fatigue during extreme workouts?
It can. So it's that's a rabbit hole. It can, but then there's so many studies that show that it won't. And so there's this process here that says that you should be taking in so many different complex carbohydrates in order to provide your body with an uptake of glucose and glycogen stores in your muscle in order to give you the necessary energy in a certain time period before a workout that's going to give you that energy in order to be able to work out and have that type of energy in order to sustain a workout and be just as energetic at the end of the workout as you were in the beginning. But then there's this process that, as intermittent fasting became a big thing, people working out in a fasted state said, well, wait a minute, we're working out in a fasted state. And through so many different processes like gluconeogenesis and all these big terms, folks, that we're not going to get into today. I'm not a biochemist. I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn last night, and I didn't play a doctor on TV. So I'm not going to talk about all that stuff today. But that's where we bring our professionals in, Dave. From that standpoint, biochemists and gastroenterologists, kind of know one, and people who really can get into detail with that terminology. But they show where your body can actually produce certain chemicals that allow your body and your brain to work together to give you that same energy that you would have as if you were eating these complex carbohydrates just 45 minutes before you work out.
Interesting.
And so it's amazing what the human body can do and what research has shown over the years, where you don't have to have a certain amount of complex carbohydrates before a meal. So when you're eating protein, there's so many different benefits of protein.
I wanted to go back to that because when I was training for my ultra marathon, I felt extremely tired all the time, but I was on a carnivore diet. Like that's all I ate was red meat and eggs. And then when I trained for my marathon, I changed my diet to pretty much chicken and rice. And that diet was so much more beneficial for running for me. I had more energy. I could push myself further. I don't know. It was interesting.
I would agree with you. If I did the first diet that you talked about, I too would begin over a period of time. I would have to start introducing some type of complex carb into my diet. And here's another thing. When you were on the carnivore diet, what were you eating on a daily basis? Were you eating chicken?
No, I was eating steak and eggs almost every day.
Steak and I remember this. I do remember you eating steak and eggs at lunchtime all the time. I do. You were also in a fasted state.
Yeah, I'd always intermittent fast every day. So
and I wonder if you weren't doing the fasting and you were eating steak and eggs and following the carnivore diet to a T without the fasting part, if that would have changed your energy levels in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Because protein does help with energy levels. Where it becomes a problem for some people is in the beginning, or maybe even for several months, when your body is used to having glucose introduced to it, especially to your brain, in order to help you find those energy levels that you're looking for, in order to do something that requires so much energy as what you were doing, the task you had at hand. I'm wondering if as time went on, if you would have continued to fight through that, eventually it would have been okay. It's kind of like an alcoholic coming off of not drinking anymore and your body wanting and needing that alcohol, even though it's bad for you, your body still needs it because that's the only way it knows how to survive. And so it takes how long sometimes for people to get through that process, the shakes, the cold sweats, unable to sleep, the jitters. And so obviously maybe not to that extent here, but I wonder, and again, this is me being very transparent. I don't know. I wonder if you would have stayed with that for a longer period of time, if that would have changed. I know several people, including one of my colleagues, she's a carnivore lifestyle to a T individual, meats and vegetables. That's it. She does not eat any carbs and zero sugar, and she is energy times 10 in every way, shape, and form, on the go and constantly moving, and never has that problem. Maybe somebody we can have on the show that could talk more about that, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure. And she is a professor of exercise science as well as a professional trainer, and definitely quite the mind when it comes to this kind of stuff. So her input would be extremely beneficial to our listeners and our viewers.
Was she on your podcast before?
She was. Amber Landsman.
What episode was that?
Oh my goodness. We talked about the carnivore diet with her, Amber Landsman Butcher. And then we had her husband, who is a researcher, Dr. Michael Butcher. He's a researcher for Youngstown State University. He studies muscular contraction and extension in animals. WashU sends him all around the world to do this.
Wait, what'd you say?
Dr. Michael Butcher.
Yeah, what does he study?
He studies basically muscularity in animals, muscle contraction and extension in sloths, in animals all around the world, and compares them in his research to human development, and what are the similarities and what are the differences in how our muscles contract and how our muscles extend, and the range of motion that we have as opposed to these animals. They send him everywhere. They send him to Central America. They send him to Brazil. And he comes back to Youngstown State University, where he has his research laboratories, and that's what they do. That's where they do 3, 5, 10-year studies on human muscularity as opposed to animal muscularity, certain animals. And the funny thing about it is, in the episode we had both he and his wife Amber Landsman on, we didn't talk about exercise science or any of that at all. We talked about marriage dynamic and how do they make it work with such busy lifestyles. So it wasn't even about that. love to have him on though to talk about that. Very interesting guy. Very interesting guy. So maybe in the future, why not?
Yeah, I mean, we always have a running list of people. Every time we talk, we're like, "Oh, we could interview this person or that kind of person."
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
People.
Yeah. Yeah. And boy, did we go off there on a tangent.
Yeah. We need to get back to the sources of protein.
We do. We were talking about steak and eggs, and both of them are extremely beneficial. Eggs, extremely beneficial, Dave. You know this. I know this. A lot of people know this. Let me get a myth out there. Let's expel this myth. If you eat eggs every day, your cholesterol is going to go through the roof. False. Now, if you eat a dozen eggs every day, okay, yeah, we might have a problem. But anywhere from 2 to 3 to 4 eggs a day, absolutely, positively beneficial, because not only does it have the protein that you're looking for and the good fats that you're looking for in terms of omega-3s, it also has a ton of nutrients in it. The egg does. And listen, 3 eggs, that's 18 grams of protein right there. Good protein, solid protein, and very little calories. What is it, 70 calories, maybe? Yeah, something like that. So eggs are extremely important, and to me, they are a staple in my diet. They're a staple. I eat them constantly. And easy to make, and you can make them in so many different ways. And me personally, I never get tired of them. So eggs, absolutely. Steak in moderation. You know, when we talk about steak here, and again, we bring chicken up, we bring hamburger up. Folks, there's so much out there. Everybody says, well, what am I looking for when I go buy this stuff? It's like catching lightning in a bottle, if you can find it. You're looking at, let's say, hamburger. 93% lean would be fantastic, especially if it's also organic, especially if there's no GMOs, especially if it's grass-fed, especially if it's grass-finished, where you know that the animal, according to the package, is eating grass while it's alive, and right up to the point where they go ahead and send it to the slaughterhouse. And then now we're going to have our meat coming to us. And there's no grain for the purposes of beefing the cow up so that you have more meat, so that you can sell more, so that you can make more money, so that you can feed the consumer more bad things, because you're eating whatever the cow ate at that point. So when you can find all of that, that's great. Sometimes it's almost impossible, but don't just grab anything off the shelf. Try to look for that stuff and find, as close to what I just said as you can. 93% lean, no GMOs, grass-fed, grass-finished, organic is great. No antibiotics, no preservatives, no additives. And again, it's very hard to find. The same thing goes with chicken. They always say they like their chickens to play well together, which means, are they free range? Are they cooped up together and stressed out? Now you're eating stressed chicken. There's something that goes with that. There's a lot of studies that show that kind of meat is not of the same quality as if we allowed our chickens to play together and roam the yard together, rather than being caged up without being able to move and get around. So, and there's a lot of studies that go into that's a benefit for not only the chicken breast, but for your eggs as well. So chicken, what do we want? Hamburger, steak, fish. Now, when we talk about fish, tilapia, no. Salmon, absolutely. Being careful with the salmon. Where is this now? Is the salmon, is it on a farm where you have them all together? Again, there's that. Are they free range? Are they free moving? Are they wild caught, or are they farmed? Which now, there we are again. What are we adding? What are we doing with these salmon? So you have to be careful with that. But salmon is extremely rich in protein and very good for you, for sure. Your white fish, your cods. When you talk about shrimp, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, 10 or 11 of the medium-sized shrimp, that's 19 grams of protein right there. So should we eat shrimp every day? No. You should always mix your protein around. You have to watch for other things in the shrimp.
I was just going to ask that. Would it be beneficial to eat the same thing every single day or change it up?
Change it up for so many different reasons. Change up your protein on a regular basis. And there's so many other, before we talk about that, let me name some other protein sources. Chicken and beef bone broth, not chicken broth and beef broth. Mm-hmm. Chicken bone broth, beef bone broth are extremely good for you. Extremely good for you. Well, what about all organic? Sure. If you could find all organic chicken bone broth, that's fantastic. What if we don't want to spend that kind of money? Go to YouTube, put a video up on how to make your own chicken bone broth. It's extremely simple, Dave. It's as simple as taking the bones from the chicken that you just cooked and boiling the bones. You'll figure out at what temperature. You'll figure out for how long. You'll figure out if you're adding anything. You're figuring out what you need to do with that broth once you're done, and make your own bone broth. It's more time consuming, but you can find chicken bone broth at an Aldi's for like $3.49 for what would be for me about 3 servings. I like to take in not every day, but I would say 3 to 4 days a week. I try to take in 2 cups of chicken bone broth on any one given day. That will give me approximately 18 to 20 grams of protein. Not a whole lot of anything else in there, you know? I'm
sorry, do you drink that in replacement of protein or like eating like a food source?
There's no replacement there. I add it to my, let's say for some people, their goal might be 100 grams. Let's keep it simple. 100 grams of protein per day. And they're at like 72, 74 that day. There's nothing easier than making 2 cups of chicken bone broth to get up almost. Okay, you didn't hit 100, but boy, did you come close, right? Just by drinking 2 cups of chicken bone broth, you just pour it in a cup, you heat it in the microwave, and you sip on it. It's really that simple.
Some people say not to use the microwave.
Listen. We're going. So this show can go in so many different directions. That's for a different show. That's when we talk about using the microwave to heat up your food will then deplete it of certain nutrients that we are no longer going to get from that food. And thus the argument for why supplementation is absolutely necessary. Different show. different show. So, and some other reasons why with the microwave. But so chicken bone broth, beef bone broth. We talked about our meats. We talked about our fish. We didn't mention tuna, but that's definitely a go-to, a staple. Cottage cheese. A lot of people just cringed. Cottage cheese. Not me. I like cottage cheese. If you're a cottage cheese lover, a couple things I'm asking from you. Stay away from the 4%, 5%, 6%. Try to stick with 1%, 2%, low fat. And a half a cup of cottage cheese, folks, is about 13 grams of protein. 13 grams of protein in a half a cup. I can't stand that stuff plain. So cut up some strawberries and put them in there. That's my go-to. Sprinkle some pepper on. That's right. I sprinkle pepper on the cottage cheese, or I add my strawberries. Let's stay away from, I don't like the large curd. We'll get small curd. Texture is a big thing. I hate cottage cheese. Don't eat it. People take it to a different level when they start getting angry with me. I don't like cottage cheese. Well, then don't eat it. Well, then what am I supposed to do? Find another protein source. There's a million of them. We're naming a ton of them right now. I like cottage cheese. I'm lucky, and I add the strawberries. I don't eat it every day. Why not if it's that good for you? Sodium. You have to watch your sodium intake when it comes to cottage cheese. Well, how often do you eat it? I don't know, 2 times a week, 3 times a week. Why 2 or 3? Because I said I'm going to eat it 2 times or 3 times. There's no rule. Everybody, and I get it, Dave, because a lot of people don't study this stuff. So they're like, if I eat it 4 times, what's going to happen? You don't turn into a pumpkin. You know what I mean? If you love cottage cheese and you eat it 4 times a week, and you go to the doctor, he says, your sodium is way too high. What are you eating? And you tell him, and he says, you need to cut back on that cottage cheese, cut it down, cut it in half. That's why we go to the doctor every 6 months for a checkup. That's why you go get your oil changed. You got to find out and make sure everything's going okay. If the doctor says everything's going great, well, now what do? Keep eating your cottage cheese. It's that simple. It really is. You're not going to eat cottage cheese for 6 months, 4 times a day and die. And the doctor says, well, you died from cottage cheese intake. That's not how it works. So try it if you love it. If you don't like it, don't eat it. If you add something to it and say, wow, I kind of like it with adding this to it, then go ahead and add to it. So that's my spiel on cottage cheese for this episode. There's so many more. You ever eat quinoa?
Yeah. I don't like it.
No. So listen, again, a lot of people just said, wow, this guy's going to go from cottage cheese to quinoa. And so listen, I'm not a huge fan of it. I don't have it often. Some people love it. You know why people hate it? Give me one reason, Dave, why you hate quinoa.
Texture.
Boom. That's the number one reason. It is. It's the number one reason. And it's some people that can get away from the texture part of it. Good for you. I try to sell it as it's the closest thing to brown rice in terms of the nutrients, but you get that extra kick of 5 to 6 grams of protein per serving. It is considered a complex carbohydrate. Excuse me. It is considered a complex carbohydrate that just happens to have 5 or 6 grams of protein, and it is extremely nutritional. So I'm with you on the texture, though, Dave. I don't love it. If it's there, I'll eat it. I don't run to Aldi's and say at 9 o'clock at night saying, I got to get to Aldi's before they close. I got to get my quinoa. It's not. I keep using Aldi's for some reason.
I think for me, my brain can't differentiate like the difference between rice and that, because like it's kind of like rice, but it's not rice.
No,
it's just weird. It's weird to me. And yeah,
it's one of those things that I tell myself, maybe if I keep doing it, you know how your taste buds just change from the time you're 10 years old to the time you're 30 years old.
Yeah.
When you're 10, you can eat an entire cake and an entire tub of ice cream. When you're 30, I'll take a roast beef and potato dinner any day over an entire cake and an entire tub of ice cream. Maybe a sliver of cake afterward. But your taste buds just change, unless it's liver. I'm never going to like liver. Who likes liver out there, by the way? I can't. Oh, my goodness, I can't stand liver.
How much protein is in liver? Isn't there quite a bit? There
is actually. And liver is extremely nutritional. And I don't know exactly how much protein is in liver. You know why? Even when I want to research it, I get sick to my stomach. My mom used to make liver once a week and would force it down our throat. We had so many different techniques that we had implemented in our liver game. There would always be a tall glass of water, so you made sure you drank your water with the liver. There was the napkin and there was, from where I was at, if she ever watches this episode, from where I was at, there were curtains. Back in the 70s, folks, we had curtains in our living room window and big drapes that went all the way to the ground. Some people still have them. I was really, really good at taking the napkin. After I was done with that, I had 10 napkins. I would take that napkin and I would get right behind the curtain. And then when dinner was over, I would then sneak from the napkins and into the trash can. That's how bad I hated liver. We had 2 dogs. I could not get them to eat the liver. I couldn't get them to eat the liver. They would look at me like, there's no way, dude. I'm not doing it. I'm not even carrying it over to the curtain for you. And so liver is definitely beneficial. I don't know how many grams of protein are in it, though. I don't know.
I have a question. So meal timing. When is the best time to consume protein for optimal muscle recovery and growth? And how does it? We already talked about the energy levels. We already talked about that.
So. Yeah, man, I'll tell you, you can't go wrong I guess for everybody, it might be different for some reasons, for various reasons. But I could tell you one thing: you can't go wrong if your very first meal of the day is consumed by almost all protein. Almost all protein, no carbohydrates. Not so. Don't bash me, folks. If you want to have your carbohydrates for your meal, also, by all means, please go ahead and do so. But when your body, is breaking a fast, right? Breakfast. So you went to bed at 10:30 at night and you woke up at 7:30 in the morning. Don't we all wish?
You know what? I've never thought about that.
Yeah, you're fasting.
Breakfast. I never even thought about that.
Yeah, you're breaking your fast.
That is so crazy. I never even put the two together.
Yeah, you're breaking you had a window, a period of time when you did not eat. So your body is telling you, we want something to supply our cells that is nutritional, that we can optimize all 11 systems in our body to really get jump started for the day. I say this is the best time for protein synthesis to kick in and really start that muscle recovery, that building lean muscle tissue, that providing the optimal solution to building bone density, stronger bones, cognitive function. Another huge benefit of protein is cognitive function, the ability to memorize, the ability to concentrate, the ability to motivate is also a huge benefit of the macronutrient protein. Study after study after study will show you that. Why not do that right there in the morning? Energy levels as well.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you eat something that's carbohydrate filled, I mean, you just feel sluggish and tired, and doing that first thing in the morning's definitely not beneficial.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to go, I like to say 25 to 30% of your ideal body weight in grams of protein for your first meal of the day, and then have your carbohydrates afterward, several hours later. Give your body a chance to take that protein and work with it.
And is there any time after, like before working out or after working out, that you should be ingesting protein? I talked about this in the last episode with protein powders.
Yeah, it's a case by case basis. When are you working out? When's the ideal time to work out? First thing in the morning. That's the ideal time. It's not always ideal for everybody. Some people have to work out after dinner or right before dinner or 7:00 in the evening. Not the best time to work out, but I'd rather you work out than not work out. So don't say, oh, he said I shouldn't be working out at 7. I guess I'm done. That's not how that works, folks. You're not off the hook. You have to work out. So when it comes to the ideal time to take in your protein, are you saying as far as working out is concerned?
Yeah, like before or after would it be best?
So you ever hear
before and after?
Yeah. Well, here's another myth. You should always take in protein within 30 minutes after you work out. You ever hear that before?
Yeah.
I'm going to expand that window to telling you right now, research will show you time and time again in the modern day world, anywhere between 2 hours before and 2 hours after, protein synthesis is moving and grooving. So you can take in, some people will say, I'm going to experiment and take my protein right before or an hour before. Some people will say, I'm going to take my protein a half hour after. I'm going to take it an hour and a half after. Some people will say, well, I'm going to take in this much protein. I'm going to take in half of it an hour before I work out and half of it an hour after I work out. And then I'm going to do it for 6 to 8 weeks. And then I want to see and feel the results. I like them. I'm going to keep doing it. I think I can do better. I'm going to make some adjustment with my numbers. I think it's a little overboard. I'm going to back off a little bit. Some people are sitting there saying, David, 6 to 8 weeks. I mean, like, And this is that problem we talk about with the overnight pill, where everybody wants that answer right away. There is no way. There is no way. There is no way. You're going to have to experiment with yourself, and you're going to find what works best for you. Your buddy's going to say, no, I take my protein in an hour after I work out, and it gives me fantastic results. And you might say, I take in ideally 25 grams of protein an hour and a half before I work out, and then I take in another 25 grams of protein an hour and a half after I work out, and I am getting tremendous results. Been doing it for 2 months now, 3 months now. And it's going to differ. We all, even though we have the same, we are the same, but we are different.
Yeah.
No two people are the same when it comes to the enzymatic processes in your body and how they work. Everybody is different. So you're following a certain plan. And in that process, there are certain guidelines to follow with branches coming off that are geared more towards your genetics, your genetic makeup. David and Tony are not going to do the same exact thing and get the same exact result. It will not happen. So that's just the way it is. That's a fact of life. And people overthink it. They overthink it. You're not going to look exactly like the guy in the video showing you the bicep routine with biceps the size of Mount St. Everest. Okay. It's just, you're not.
Yeah.
You're not. We don't even know what his journey is. His genetic makeup is probably gifted, but we don't know his journey either and how he got to where he got to. Or he's just lucky, he's just lucky. And that's the way it goes. That's life.
Yeah. Now, the third point was we were going to touch on the pros and cons of whey versus plant protein. What are your thoughts on that? The pros and cons of that?
So again, this is where I definitely want to tell everybody to go back to that episode, because
that'll be in the show notes, by the way.
Yeah, because we definitely, I don't know how well we touched on it, but I'll just give a couple of quick ones real quick as far as like with whey protein. And this goes for both of them, actually. Whey protein and plant protein, it's an easy go-to to get some extra protein in for the day. So if you're going to get an extra 20 or 25 grams of protein in for the day, and you're like, I don't feel like cooking a steak now. I don't feel like, so now you have the opportunity to just make yourself a quick protein shake, whey protein isolate, or your plant protein, whatever it is that you're drinking that day. And you get yourself an extra 20 to 30 grams of protein right then and there at the snap of a finger. So that's a pro right there for both of them. Now, I guess what you could say, another thing for whey protein that is extremely beneficial is obviously muscle strength, lean muscle tissue growth, bone strength, bone density. It works in all four aspects. So that right there is another huge benefit of your whey protein isolate and whey protein concentrate powder. Again, folks, if you want to know the pros and cons of both of those and when you should be taking one and not the other, we go into detail in that episode that is in the description of this particular episode. I would say another pro for plant protein that is also a con for our listeners out there and viewers for whey protein is plant protein is great for those who have allergies to whey. So anybody who's allergic to dairy, anybody who can't consume dairy, they cannot consume whey protein concentrate for sure because of all the carbs and fats and sugars that are in there. And it's powdered milk. It's dry milk that's been filtered. And so you cannot take that because of your digestive system. You're lactose intolerant. Plant protein is the way to go in terms of getting in some type of protein source. And again, that's the con for whey protein. So I just gave you a pro for plant and a con for whey. I don't know. I guess the last thing I would say, Dave, as far as what would be maybe a con for whey protein is it's high glycemic. We talked about this in that episode. We talked about how high it is on the glycemic chart. It's actually higher than white bread, which means, folks, it spikes your insulin levels really high, which means a con of whey protein is also when you take it. Do not take whey protein, isolate or concentrate at 8 o'clock at night when you're going to shut it down for the evening and your body's running at nice low levels and melatonin's kicking in and you're trying to relax for the evening. Your body will not use all that protein and nutrition that you're putting in there. It will store it. And it will store it as fat. So you have to watch when you take it. I would take it at the beginning of the day, or I would take it right before a workout or right after a workout when your body needs it. So that could be a con when it comes to whey protein, whereas plant protein, it's not high glycemic at all. And so that's going to be something that's going to be so much more beneficial in that situation. Take your plant protein. If you're taking in protein at a later point in the day, take your whey protein, isolate or concentrate. And again, there's different times for different people to take concentrate or isolate in that episode in the description. So I guess that's we really went into some detail there on pros and cons of protein powder. And there's a lot of other stuff out there too. There's collagen. Listen to that episode for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now that brings us to the BCAAs and protein, the relationship between the two.
So we're going to do an entire episode on BCAAs, branched chain amino acids. Definitely going to do an entire episode on that because, matter of fact, Dave, I don't know how it won't be a 2 or 3 part series unless we're going to talk for 3 hours. There's so much to unravel there when it comes to BCAAs, branched chain amino acids. The relationship, if I had to give an example in layman's terms, if you can imagine, folks, somebody, a bricklayer, taking blocks, okay, and putting these blocks together in order to create a house, and the house is the protein. So you're taking your branched chain amino acids. There's approximately 20. There's an argument there's 22. I know of 20. There's 9 of them that are essential, Dave, meaning that they are essential because we cannot produce them in our body by itself. So our body produces creatine by itself. Our body produces amino acids by itself. Our body produces so many different things by itself. But in that amino acid concept, there are 9 that are essential, which means our body cannot produce them. There's only one way that we can get these 9 essential amino acids, and that is through consumption. Food, drink, protein powders, or all those foods we were talking about. And there's another show there where we can talk about in the amino acid show, which foods that are protein rich also have all 9 amino acids in them. Dave, I'm going to have you guess out of all the protein foods we were talking about, which one, just pick one, do you think has all 9 essential amino acids in it?
Steak.
Pick another one.
Fish.
Pick another one. I'm not telling you you're wrong. What's the one I said you can eat every day and don't listen to all that myth and garbage?
Eggs.
Eggs have all 9. Easy to make. Scramble them up. Add a piece of Gouda cheese. Cheese. People will tell me, do you eat cheese? Cheese is bad for you. Cheese is dairy. Cheese in moderation will offer anywhere between 4 and 6 grams of protein per slice. Now, what kind of cheese? Are you grabbing that American Kraft singles in the plastic wrap? While you're at it, just eat the plastic wrap. You might as well, because that's about the nutritional value of what you're taking in. When we're talking about cheeses that are beneficial in terms of protein and other essential nutrients that are within them, we're talking about feta. We're talking about Gouda. We're talking about Havarti, mozzarella, Parmesan, a little bit to a certain degree. So these are the kind of goat. we're talking about those types of cheeses, and we're talking about it in moderation. I love an egg omelet with feta cheese in it, not just because I'm Greek. You're stereotyping me out there. Really, it is. I mean, I had to eat feta when I was little, so I got used to it and loved it. But my dad makes the best egg omelet with spinach and feta cheese. I could eat a 4-egg omelet all day long. I look forward to Sundays when I'm not working because I know I'm getting my egg omelet. I go over to my parents. That's my excuse to go visit. And my mom's going to choke me out if she ever watches this. I go to visit my parents, ladies and gentlemen, because I love to visit my parents. But it is the best omelet out there. And so having cheese is okay if you're going by those sources I just mentioned. Stay away from the processed stuff. That stuff is garbage times 3,000, and it'll wreak havoc on your digestive system. So when you're talking about branched chain amino acids, you're talking about 20 different amino acids, and then you're talking about the 9 essential. And the 9 essential are things like leucine, isoleucine, valine, tryptophan, and there's 5 other ones, and with complicated names that everybody pronounces differently. And more on that when we actually do an episode, Dave, on the BCAAs. And so the relationship is the amino acids begin to combine together in order to form protein. You cannot get a protein without your branched chain amino acids coming together and forming chains. And those are peptides and polypeptides and all this terminology that we could talk about in a later show. And they form these chains, and you have to make sure. So amino acids are not proteins because you have to have so many different amino acids forming together to form a protein. Make sense? Does that make sense at all?
Yep.
And both are essential, but one is derived from the other. What's that?
A bomb ticking in the background?
I do not have a bomb ticking in the background. Do you hear a bomb?
Do you hear the beeping?
Where am I at? Stopwatch, folks.
Oh, you set it for an hour?
No, the timer goes off every day at this time. Do you still hear it?
No, it's good.
Yeah. I don't know why, and I'm really good with my stopwatch when I'm training my athletes, but I have no idea how to shut this alarm off. I can't wait till the battery dies on it so I can go get a new stopwatch.
Oh my gosh!
I didn't even hear it. You have ears like, well, give me something that has what animal has fantastic ears? They can hear anything. I don't know.
And like an elephant, right? No, that's the
I think the elephant is the
it's the mind of an elephant.
Well, they say the elephant's mind is like as big as a peanut, but they are extremely intelligent despite that.
They have a great memory too.
Yeah, and a great memory. Yeah. I don't know about hearing. I don't know. I have no idea.
Well, I have headphones on, so it's easy. It was easy for me to hear it.
Yeah, it's blocking it out because the noise is actually here with me, but it's picking it up with my microphone, so you're actually hearing it on your headphones.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's like a bomb going off. What's he talking about? So, I mean, that is the basic relationship between branched chain amino acids and protein. But wow, is there a lot to talk about when it comes to BCAAs and how absolutely necessary they are when it comes to a daily intake of them in order to be the best you when it comes to lean muscle tissue repair and growth, bone density, stronger bones, and just an overall stronger being and well-being. As we get older, it is so important for people to understand protein and protein intake. It is, again, when it comes to the 3 macronutrients, it is the most important one. We hear so much about elders falling, breaking a bone, and what happens to their health after that? It's a decline. It's just straight down. And they never recover from it for so many different reasons. And, all medical problems aside, like osteoporosis, and things of that nature, they've they could have avoided this situation by simply concentrating on stronger bone density, a stronger muscular well-being, their musculature, and they avoided that, and so therefore their bones become brittle, their muscles become weak. It's harder for them to walk. It's harder for them to do anything, and their quality of life dissipates rapidly once they get into a certain age bracket. And so anybody, it's never too late to start. I train 3 people at this point that are in their 70s. Folks, I have them squatting. I have them doing everything. And obviously everything is moderate, it's
to their capabilities.
Exactly. As I literally completely cannot think of anything to say or how to say it.
Well, you've been to the whole episode. I've barely said anything.
No. So yeah, that's basically it. I mean, how much? Let me ask you a question. So let's get you talking here as we get closer to the end of the show. What is your rule of thumb? Now here's somebody, right? You're a podcaster. You're an auto worker, father of 2 lovely children, busy guy. What is your rule of thumb? Avid workout person. And when I say avid, I mean lose your mind if you don't work out that day. What is your rule of thumb as far as how much protein you try to take in on a regular basis?
Well, I should do better with, I guess, counting and planning it out. But I mean, typically, I think I eat roughly about my body weight in protein.
Okay.
There goes the alarm again. No, I typically eat let's see here, 3 or 4 eggs in the morning, and then for lunch I always eat chicken and rice. But I need to do better as far as switching that up. That's why I asked you, should I rotate that? And so by chicken breasts, I think I eat about 1.5 breasts for lunch. And then for dinner, usually, I don't weigh anything out or anything like that. So dinner, I eat whatever it is. I plan on ground beef or ground turkey, even sometimes chicken, eggs. I eat a lot of eggs. Typically, in the evening, if I eat eggs, I usually eat about 4 or 5 because it's usually after a workout. If sometimes I go to the gym after work.
Okay.
And then I'll eat about 4 or 5 eggs, and then I'll follow that up with a protein shake.
Couple things to touch on that you just talked about. You talked about you switch this up and you switch that up, and that's a fantastic point you're making to switch your protein up and why. And it was something I think I can't remember now, but I think in the beginning of the show I said we're going to touch on that. When it comes to switching your protein, a lot of different reasons. No one protein is created equal. So what you're getting protein wise in a chicken breast, you're not getting the same thing in an egg. Right. And what I mean by that is, let's say when it comes to those essential amino acids and the fact that we are trying to get all 9 of them, okay, all 9 of them every day, there's certain proteins that you're going to be eating where only 3 or 4 of those 9 essential are given in that particular food item. So now you have to find it somewhere else.
Right.
That's why you switch from your whey protein to your plant protein sometimes, and back and forth. That's why sometimes it's chicken bone broth, and then sometimes it's cottage cheese, and then sometimes for a snack you're going to have Greek yogurt.
I was going to ask you about Greek yogurt because that's another thing I eat. In the morning.
Greek yogurt in moderation is fine. And again, it comes down to the great thing about Greek yogurt is it's filtered out. A lot of the bad is completely filtered away from the yogurt itself. Unlike some of your other yogurts out there, there's no sugar, there's none of that. People say Greek yogurt is kind of blah. So add blueberries, add blackberries, add strawberries,
some honey.
Honey. There you go. Honey, and I know somebody who adds honey and cinnamon to their Greek yogurt. Cinnamon's bad for you? Nope, cinnamon's great for you, actually. So, you want to diversify your protein sources because you want to make sure that you're getting all those essential amino acids from all those different sources. That's your complete protein. When you talk about incomplete proteins versus complete proteins, there's a lot of incomplete proteins out there, dirty proteins, sausage, bacon, and things like that.
Those are good fat sources, though.
Yeah. In moderation, just fine. And you still are getting your protein, but they call them incomplete proteins for one big reason. You don't have all 9 essential amino acids in that one item, in that food item. So eggs are going to be a complete protein. Bacon's going to be an incomplete protein. But keep this in mind. A group of incomplete proteins, when eaten together, can become a complete protein. So when people ask me, is it okay to eat incomplete proteins? Yes, but don't make that that can't be the focal point of your protein regimen. It cannot be. It can be, it could be your a small portion here and a small portion there. If you're eating a 5-egg omelet, and you have 2 pieces of bacon and an avocado. Oh, that bacon's bad for you. That bacon's doing just fine, filling in the gaps with some incomplete protein. That avocado is doing great as far as essential fats, and you're eating a fantastic omelet that if you add a little bit of feta to it, you got over 40 grams of protein right there. So it's not impossible, folks. It really isn't, Dave. And you know this, to take in the necessary amount of protein on a daily basis. If you are overthinking it and stressing yourself out, listen to this show again. Rewind and listen again, and you'll be amazed at how at one point in time, with patience and perseverance, it will get to the point where you never weigh anything. You never read the package over and over again. I know right now when you said that you had one and a half chicken breasts. What's that?
The alarm's going off again.
Okay, folks. I don't hear it. You know what I mean?
Sarge, you're like the most like like non-tech person ever.
Yeah. So listen, the alarm went off, and now that stopwatch is all the way by the front door right now. I just threw it. So if you hear it now, I don't know what to tell you guys, but I think 3 times is a charm with that. I think after 3 times it stops. I think, if I'm not mistaken. We'll find out. And now where was I? Oh, when you said 1.5 chicken breasts, I immediately said, okay, that's probably a little over 40 grams of protein right there. So because I don't have to go look at the package now, I know that right there, you're looking between 24 and 26 grams for a whole chicken breast. And then I just cut that in half and I added it. And I'm like, yeah, he's got to be between 38 and 42 grams of protein just in 1.5 chicken breasts. Yeah. And by the way, folks, brown rice has, it's a complex carbohydrate, and it is beneficial for you. It's good to have here and there, especially with chicken breast. Fantastic. But it also is, to a certain extent, somewhat of an incomplete protein. Doesn't have all 9 essential amino acids, but it does have some in there, and it does have protein in there, obviously. So you're taking in a good amount of protein right there. Easy. There's no doubt in my mind you can easily get to at least 80% of your ideal body weight in protein every day. Well, what if I get to 70%? One of the last things I want to say today, if you are looking to try and get more protein in every day and you wanted to get in 100 grams a day, but you're only getting in 80, 85, 75, sometimes 90, I guarantee you that if you weren't trying and you weren't paying attention at all to your eating habits, you'd be getting in 30 or 40 or 50 grams of protein a day. And so by concentrating, you are making yourself better by getting in an extra 20 to 30 to 40 grams every day. Take that as a win. Take that as a win. Don't beat yourself up because you're not getting that ideal number every day. It's a win because you're concentrating. And then start thinking about what's one more thing I can add. And I get this too. People say that much protein really fills me up. Protein, here's a benefit of protein. Not high in calorie, but extremely satiating.
Mm-hmm.
So when you eat protein, it fills you up, which makes you not really hungry to keep eating, which keeps the calorie portions down. Another benefit that just came to my head as we're talking about this. So yeah, protein does fill you up, which is a good thing. It's a good thing. So there's that. There's that.
Yeah. Well, I think this was a great episode. This will be a paid episode, so all the listeners that are able to listen to this are paid Patreon subscribers.
And we thank and I want to say we thank you guys for that. Truly, we appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's what will help the show strive and grow.
Yeah. Without our subscribers, our Patreon subscribers, it becomes extremely difficult to move the show forward.
Absolutely, because I mean, like to listen to the show on YouTube for free is nice. However, it doesn't help the show if nobody subscribes. I mean, we're not really making any money unless we get a certain amount of subscribers and downloads per episode.
Right. So. For sure. So we if you're listening to this show, you're a subscriber, and truly, guys, we thank you. We hope we can continue to bring this kind of content to you and then some. We don't want to just keep it right here. I mean, there's a lot of content we want to bring for sure. And so truly very thankful. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Sarge, thanks again for another awesome episode. Very informative. I take notes during the episode. So, I mean, it helps me with editing, and then it also helps me like to go back and know what we talked about and to remember. And I encourage anybody who listens to the episode to also take notes. So,
yeah. So wait, so you're going to edit out the alarm on the stopwatch?
No.
That'll be
super.
Yeah. I was going to say, okay. Yeah, I appreciate it. Hope everybody has a great evening or a great day or a great morning. Depends on when they're listening to the show. And can't wait to get back at it, Dave. We got a ton of information to continue to bring to our listeners and our viewers.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks again, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. That is it.
We're out.